The interest in the area of minority entrepreneurship comes from a number of different sources. I suppose the first and most important source of my interest comes from my family upbringing. My mum and dad would have brought all of us up to believe in treating everyone with respect, treating everyone equally, that anybody that is out and working of a day and earning money is deserving of respect, and that other people in society who have faced challenges or may have been unfortunate in different ways or marginalized, that everyone deserves respect and dignity. So that was a very strong teaching throughout my childhood, for which I'm very grateful to my parents for giving me. And then I suppose in my career, I always had an interest in entrepreneurship. My background is actually marketing, but within 2 or 3 years of becoming an academic, I started to move from marketing towards entrepreneurship. And at the time, I would have been one of the few people in the Republic of Ireland who would have been teaching in that area. This is, almost 30 years ago. And over time, that interest in entrepreneurship moved towards the area of marginalized and minority communities. And where it particularly happened for me was during the Celtic Tiger years in Ireland, when we had a booming economy. I noticed that not all sections of society were benefiting equally from that economic boom, and that the marginalized and minority communities were continuing to be disadvantaged, and I wanted to do something about it. And when I looked at what I could potentially do, I realized that, my key skill set was entrepreneurship education, and that if I contributed to these communities, the notion of self-employment as a potential career option, then I might be adding some benefit to some people within those communities. So in 2006, I established the Institute for Minority Entrepreneurship within what was then Dublin Institute of Technology. That is now Technological University Dublin. And so since 2006, I've been involved in research and training and policy around the area of minority entrepreneurship. It's been my key passion and my key area of focus. Within all of that, we have expanded into the areas in which we would have undertaken research. Originally, it was primarily immigrants because they were the key target population at that time. But we've since worked with people with disabilities, doing quite a lot of work with people with disabilities now. The LGBT plus community, the seniors. I've run training programs inside prison. I've worked on occasion with women entrepreneurs, less so there because there's quite a lot already happening in that space, and also worked with travelers, which would be internationally referred to as gypsies, maybe Roma, and other disadvantaged communities. And I've been very fortunate because I've got a real passion for it, but equally I've got great rewards because of what I've learned from these communities across the years, because I find working with each community brings some new value to my own life and to what I learn about how to live it. I think the major contribution within an Irish context has been that I've kept it on the political agenda. I continue to interact with the Department of Enterprise and with other relevant agencies in Ireland. And so the notion of self-employment as a potential career option for people from minority or disadvantaged communities continues to be part of the discussion, because I am looking to make that happen. I'm looking to ensure that policy is inclusive in terms of the marginalised, particularly with regard to self-employment. I think another contribution has been the recent publication of a book that I edited, the Palgrave Handbook of Minority Entrepreneurship, which is an extensive review of existing literature relating to 14 different minority communities. And the chapters have been written by experts in each of these, from each of these communities. And I believe that book will become a foundation from which future researchers will build. And it's a I suppose a state-of-the-art type publication that offers anyone starting out in this area a platform from which to build their work. And I think the third area then is the design and development and implementation of dedicated and customized training programs for people from these different communities. For example, this September, I'm launching an online customized self-employment program for people with disability. It's the first of its kind in Ireland. And I'm really excited by that initiative and the potential that it offers to the community. I think one of the concerns I would have for people with disabilities is that the rate of employment is appalling, and the rate of pay for those in employment is also shocking. And yet self-employment is not discussed as a real option. And I think this is going to change that perception. And I'm really excited by what lies ahead. The biggest challenge, undoubtedly, is the perception that people from minority, disadvantaged communities have the same challenges as general society in terms of self-employment. So the vast majority of people in enterprise agencies, vast majority of policymakers would just say, why do you need customized or tailored training programs? Why do you need customized or tailored supports? We treat everyone the same. Our doors are open to everyone. So why, if they want to set up a business, life's tough, business is tough, why should we treat them with kid gloves and treat them any differently? And that remains the biggest challenge. And people do not appreciate the additional and distinctive challenges that someone from a minority or disadvantaged community faces when starting up their own business. And I've never argued for kid gloves. I've never argued that people from these communities should be given preferential treatment, let's say, in terms of starting up their own business. If a business idea is poor and has little potential for being sustainable, then it shouldn't be encouraged to start. And I don't care from what community that person comes. So it's not about, poor you, let's help you because you come from one of these communities, and even if you got a bad idea, we'll help you start up. I think that's nonsense. I think, it's about, recognizing the additional and distinctive challenges that they face, supporting them through that process and those challenges, to a point where a good evaluation of the sustainability or the viability of that business idea can be made. But if at that time, the realization is this is not for me, or this idea, won't make me enough money to survive, then I don't believe it should be pursued. So the notion that I'm soft or that I'm, treating people with kid gloves is wrong. But I do think people have to recognize the additional distinctive challenges that people from these communities face. I have, I suppose, spoken at many conferences and workshops around the topic of minority entrepreneurship. And I've consistently presented the view that I believe there's enormous opportunities for academics to undertake research in any of these areas, because the number of publications that have been presented in academic journals on any of these topics, right, is minimal. We've got increasing, women's entrepreneurship, quite a lot written, immigrant entrepreneurship, quite a bit, ethnic entrepreneurship, quite a bit. But we still don't know as much as we should know on any of those topics. But once you go into disability, once you start talking about refugees, once you start talking about seniors, about marginalized youth, about ex-offenders, about indigenous entrepreneurs, about Roma, and the other classifications, vets would be another one, veterans, military veterans, and there's others, right? So back in 2012, Laura Galloway and I co-edited a special issue of a journal on what we call the silent minorities, because we call them silent because they weren't being talked about. And I think, that opportunity continues to exist. And I think it's wonderful to see people doing PhDs. It's we need to see more good research and publications in the journals on all of these. There's so much left to be done yet. Equally, we need people involved in training and education for these communities, because so little is being done. If you pick any of these communities, the level of customized or tailored training programs on any of them is minimal. So there's significant opportunity for trainers and educators in that space. And equally, if we look for policymakers continue, and enterprise agencies continue to treat, this as the same, for all entrepreneurs, and we don't need to come up with any special initiatives. And you're going, no, hang on a sec, that's wrong. They need to get to grips with the fact that a strategy or policy for minority entrepreneurship is required in any of our countries. So whether you're an academic, whether you're an educator, stroke trainer, whether you're a policy maker or work in an enterprise agency, the opportunity exists for all of us to make a positive contribution to these communities around self-employment. And if we can do that, the benefits are enormous, right? Because we're moving people away from welfare, potentially, right? In some cases, we're moving people from crime, right? And we're saying to them, your career options, your income generation options, aren't just limited to three, the three being employment, welfare, or crime, right? We're saying, actually, there's a fourth option here. It's called self-employment, And we can move you from a position where you're taking from society to adding to society. So it's having social benefits, but equally, it's having economic benefits. And the part that I struggle to comprehend when I talk to policymakers is, why don't you see the economic benefits of all of this? Like a simple example would be, the cost of keeping someone in prison is really, really expensive. And if you were to take the cost of keeping one person in prison and put that money in a training program for self-employment in a prison, I bet you'd have a greater return, than the cost of one person being in prison. So, it's about societal benefits, okay, in terms of economy and also in terms of society itself. And obviously, there's the individual benefits of moving people into gainful, employment or self-employment, and feeling, that they're valued by society. And therefore, I think there's opportunity for all of us to contribute to doing just that.